Yo, thought I'd pop on just for a few minutes. It's just Taylor here. The boys don't even know I did this. I just decided to do it. Kind of snuck up on me today, and this might be for a limited audience, but thought I would jump on here and at least address it because we all have our man crushes. We have like favorite ball players, favorite actors, favorite humans, favorite parents, teachers and coaches and stuff. And we all have those celebrity crushes that we'll never meet. We don't really know them, but we think we do. We just really like what they do, and maybe their work's influential or whatever. Well, for me, one of those dudes is, and if anyone has ever watched anything I've done for the better part of 30 years doing this stuff, got 30, you'll know that one of my heroes is someone I'd like to meet. You never know. But the great Eddie Vedder, the lead singer and um, head writer, leader of my favorite band of all time, Pearl Jam. Eddie turned 60 years old today. About that. Hell of a thing. Um, it's one of those things where when your heroes get old like that. And by the way, Eddie's in great shape for a 60-year-old. Still smokes on occasion, although he doesn't smoke like he used to. Doesn't drink like he used to. He used to drink a lot, and he'd go through a pack of cigarettes a day, and he'd go through an entire bottle of red wine during a concert. Golly, that sounds brutal. He'd go through. He's kept himself in really good shape. He's a lifelong surfer and swimmer and kayaker and stand-up paddler. So I don't, he's in good shape for a 60-year-old man. And they just came off a massive tour, which they toured the entire United States, a big part of Europe. Pearl Jam's going to tour again next year, and hope I'll get to get a chance to see them. I thought I'd pop on because the dude turned 60. We all have our heroes. One of my favorite baseball players died yesterday or the day before, Ricky Henderson. I didn't like any of the teams that Ricky played on, but I always super dug him as a player because he was so just unique as an individual. He passed a day or two ago at 65 years old. And to think that Eddie Vedder's 60, geez, I don't think I would be able to function for about a week if Eddie Vedder were to pass away. I'm serious about that. And that's the only person, celebrity wise, that I can think of. Like, I've got, look, Willie Nelson passes. I'm not going to skip work. I'm going to be sad and we're going to do a show on Willie, but I'm not going to be, I'm going to work. One of my all time favorite ball players is Derek Jeter. If God forbid something happens to Derek Jeter, I'd be sad, but we talk about it. If Eddie were to go, you may not see my ass for a week. I was. I don't know. It's weird because there's a million stories like this, and we all have them with our heroes and our guys that sing and play music and bands and stuff. But that band really did, for the most part, write the soundtrack to my life. Some of y'all know that I had a tumultuous childhood. That tends to happen when your parents are 15 and 17 when you're born, for crying out loud. And so I was born in 74. Thankfully, I was with my grandma mostly until I was 5, but I'll never forget in the early fall of 79, I want to say, maybe early 80. I remember it was a sunny day, but I had a jacket on. So it was probably late fall in 79 or 80. The year I don't remember. I guess I was 5, 6. And my mom came and got me from my grandma's house because my mom finally had gotten her shit together enough to go find some quack lawyer to help her draw up some papers and grab a couple of Fort Worth police officers and go get me from my grandma. I'd been with my grandma for the better part of 5 years. And I guess my grandma didn't have parental rights. My mom did. And so my mom shows up one day, flanked by 2 cops, and takes me from my grandma. What a fateful day that was for me. Because that man, I was going to have to spend I was going to have to spend my childhood with that woman. And I love her. And she passed away this year, too. Don't get me wrong, but she was wheels off when she was young. And so here I am, this kid raised in this dysfunctional scene, you know, 66% white kid, 33% Mexicano, living in an all Mexican neighborhood, but going to an all white school, which was weird because I bust across town to go to school at that good school. And I'm a teenager, and it didn't take long for me to realize as a young man that, wow, we're really poor. We don't have much. We're down and out. The guy who provides for our family is a criminal. So you never knew when the cops were going to come and arrest my stepdad and my mom. When the light would go out. I mean, we lived in hotels off and on throughout my childhood as we were just trying to make they were trying to make ends meet. And when you're a kid, you don't really know how bad you are. When you're a little kid, you're kind of like a dog. Like, you ever see a homeless guy? He's got a dog on the side of the road with him, and and the guy's all beaten down. He hadn't washed his hair in 6 months, and he's half dead, and he's starving to death. And the dog's just happy as can be. When you're a little kid, you're kind of like a homeless man's dog. You don't know how messed up your scene is. I mean, it's a little different. It's not. It's not normal, but you're a kid. Probably. But so my point is, when I was 13, 14, thank God, my mom, her situation just plummeted, and thankfully, I wound up back with my grandma. So I was with my grandma from birth to five. With my mother from 5 to 13. What a hell of 7 years those were. And then back to my grandma at 13. But I was still like this. I was this undisciplined pup. I was this wild Mustang, at 13, 14, 15. And two things helped me get my shit together as a teenager in high school. One was baseball, playing ball at my high school, because I took that very serious, and I wanted to be a college baseball player, which was never going to happen, but I wanted to. And the other thing that kept me going, during those times was music, like a lot of y'all. And when I discovered Pearl Jam and started like rocking out to the tunes you hear on radio, like, wow, these are badass songs. You don't hear any of the words, and Eddie had that muffled delivery, especially then when he was young and just wild ass. But then you start actually looking up lyrics to tunes, and you start realizing, holy shit, these dudes are kind of like me. I mean, yeah, they're rock stars now, but Eddie had a horrific upbringing. Like, Eddie was raised by this dude that he thought was his dad. And then when Eddie was like 15, realized, holy shit, that's not even my actual dad. My real dad just died like a year ago. So Eddie was messed up big time, had abuse issues in his childhood. So I related to him a lot, as a kid with not a lot of options, a kid that was not dealt the best hand, and feeling like I'm helpless. I'm never going to get to go to college. I'm going to wind up being just a schlep, and I'm going to have to come to grips with that. But I don't know, somehow, like Pearl Jam and that whole grunge movement, that whole Seattle scene really sucked me in. A lot of baby boomers shit on the Gen X movement of the early 90s, but I don't give a shit. There's never been anything like that scene. You're talking about a 10-mile radius of Seattle, Washington, in which gobs of bands just blew up that all basically lived in neighboring little, like, it'd be like, for my San Antonio peeps, it'd be like Pearl Jam blows up and they're from, Balcones Heights. Alice in Chains blows up and they're from, I don't know, they're from Universal City. And then all of a sudden, a week later, Nirvana blows up and they live by the rim. Or, and then all of a sudden it's like, holy shit, Mudhoney is a band. They're all Zarzamora. Or, Candlebox. They're from the South Side. All these bands in this town all blew up at the same time. And so it was just such an amazing scene, and I was hook, line, and sinker a fan of all those bands, even a lot of the bands that never really like got huge that were good. But for whatever reason, Pearl Jam was the one that I was drawn to the most. And so from an early age, Teenage Taylor was a worshiper, a disciple of that band. And all those bands have had death, thank God, except Pearl Jam. Nirvana obviously lost Kurt to suicide. And Lane Staley, the lead singer of Alice in Chains, he overdosed. Chris Cornell, of course, is dead now, but Chris didn't pass till 6, 7 years ago. But like there's at least somebody from that movement. Stone Temple Pilots, they were from California, but they were still one of those big grungy bands in that time. Scott Weiland had all kinds of problems and was in and out of rehab, and the band broke up. Pearl Jam never broke up. Couple of rehab stints for sure, but they never broke up, and no one ever died. Thank God. The band that I happen to choose had no deaths, and all they've done since I was 17 years old is make fucking amazing music. And if you've not had a chance, if you're a fan of that kind of music, if you have a chance and you have not listened, maybe you like rock music, but you lost, Pearl, you can't, not a lot of people stick with the same band 30 years. If you have not heard the record they released earlier this year called Dark Matter, it's just so good. They're so much better now than they were even when I was a kid. The tunes have changed, but they've changed. They've evolved. They've all grown up and they've got families. And now, shit, Eddie's turning 60. I mean, a couple of them are grandparents now. The organ player, Boom Gasper's pushing 70. He's got a bunch of grandkids. So the lyrics change because they've changed. They've evolved, and they've evolved. And the reason why they've not had any death, not to knock on anybody else, but the reason they didn't break up or have massive tragedy is because thank God those guys all have their head on right and they look at things normally, as normal as you can being in their scenario. And so everything they've released has always related to me, whether I was 19 or 30 or 40 and now 50. Their tunes still relate to me because they write age appropriate music. So their lyrics have changed, but they're just as good as ever because they're so tight. They've played together so long. Imagine me and Rudy doing a show for 30 years together. We'd be able to do the show without even seeing each other. They're just the chemistry they have. They're just so fucking good now. So if you haven't had a chance and you dig that kind of music, but you have not listened to Dark Matter, go listen to that record. It's the best record of the year in this biased man's opinion. But I just thought I'd pop on, say what's up. We're not going to have a in the building tomorrow or on Christmas, obviously. So I thought I'd go ahead and pop in today and give y'all a little members only action. I also noticed, also part of this is I noticed that we've had some members, drop their memberships. And frankly, I don't blame them. I don't blame them. Now, a lot of that's probably end of the year. A lot of people will go into their phone and start clearing out apps and subscriptions and shit to save money, which that happens to everybody. But I want to make sure that we recommit to members only programming because all of y'all watching this now, you're a member. It's only $6 a month, but it's still $6. And if you ain't getting any material on a consistent basis, then why the fuck would you continue to pay $6 a month? It's still $6. So this is an ode to Eddie Vedder, but it's also an ode to members and a recommitment to the member in 2025. I can tell you why we didn't post any members onlys. I mean, I can give you excuses and talk about how busy we are and we're doing this. That don't make a damn. If we don't have time to do members only content, then it shouldn't exist. It shouldn't be an option. Well, I'm recommitting to it. You're going to get a hell of a lot more members only content from the three of us, the two of us, me, starting today. So I thought, what better time than the post a members only show by coming on here and paying homage to my hero, the great Eddie Vedder. All right. Merry Christmas. Thanks, everybody, very much. Have a good holiday. In the building will return on Thursday. Thank God for Eddie Vedder. He's kept me. He's kept me even kilter all these years, and I appreciate him. Here's to 10 more years at least of Pearl Jam rocking out. Who knows how long they'll keep releasing records and touring, but they continue to do so, and thank God they do. And thank God to them. Hey, y'all have a happy Christmas. Love y'all hard. We'll see you in here on Thursday. While I got you real quick, if you're watching live or you happen to watch this before Saturday, me and Rudy and LG will be at Mark's outing on Saturday. Badass black man owned burger joint on Commerce right down the street from the Alamo Dome. And we are going to post up there from 3 to 5 this Saturday and have an Alamo Bowl tailgate. And then Rudy and I and LG, we're going to go watch Colorado take on BYU at the Dome. But before that, we're going to hang out, have burgers and beers. Speaking of beers, it's BYOB. Mark does not have alcohol, but he has told me to tell Thunderdome, y'all bring your own. He will absolutely accommodate you. No problem. So bring your own booze, buy a burger, hang out with us for a couple of hours. Whether you have a ticket or not, just come hang out with us and We'll be at Mark's outing. We don't normally get on that side of town. We coming. East side. We coming. We'll see y'all boys on Saturday. L. Harley with a quick $2 Christmas gift. Thank you, man. So y'all come out Saturday. We'll see y'all Thursday on In the Building. Love you hard. Namaste. Keep on rocking in the free world.